The silent observer. The morning sun filtered through the smog of Delhi, casting a golden haze over the towering luxury apartments of Panchsheel Park. Prisha Sharma adjusted her simple cotton dupatta as she entered the lobby, nodding politely to the security guard who barely acknowledged her presence. At 24, she had perfected the art of invisibility, a necessary skill for housekeepers in the homes of Delhi's elite. "Good morning, Prisha," said Rajesh, the building supervisor. "Mr. Khanna's apartment needs extra attention today. He's returning from Bangalore tonight after 3 weeks away." Prisha nodded. "I'll make sure everything is perfect." The penthouse apartment of Vikram Khanna occupied the entire top floor of Sapphire Towers. At 32, Vikram had built Quantum, solutions from nothing, creating software that revolutionized India's agricultural sector. The financial magazines called him brilliant, visionary, reclusive. To Prisha, he was simply the employer she rarely saw, a man who left polite notes with instructions and generous pay deposited directly to her account. As she entered the apartment using her service key, the silence greeted her like an old friend. She moved methodically through the spaces, dusting, vacuuming, and arranging. In the kitchen, she noticed a withering basil plant on the windowsill. Without hesitation, she carefully watered it, trimmed the dying leaves, and moved it to a sunnier spot. "There you go," she whispered to the plant. "Just needed a little care." In Bangalore, Vikram Khanna stared at his phone in confusion. The security app had sent a notification, movement detected in his apartment. Tapping the alert, he expected to see his regular housekeeper going about her duties. Instead, he watched as Prisha gently spoke to his struggling basil plant while tending to it with unexpected care. Curious, he swiped through previous recordings. There she was 2 weeks ago, fixing the loose handle of his refrigerator with tools from her own small kit. Last week, she had noticed his collection of first edition books accumulating dust and had carefully cleaned each one with a special cloth she'd brought specifically for that purpose. Vikram frowned. He had nearly forgotten about those books, a passion he'd had little time for lately. Watching her handle them with such reverence stirred something in him. Back in the apartment, Prisha continued her work, unaware of her observer. In the living room, she noticed a framed photograph lying face down. Picking it up, she saw a younger Vikram standing beside an elderly woman with kind eyes. The glass was cracked. Carefully, she removed the photograph, found a replacement frame in a nearby drawer, and positioned it properly on the shelf. As evening approached, Prisha finished her final tasks. Before leaving, she paused by the small shrine in the corner of the apartment, something she'd noticed Vikram maintained despite his busy schedule. The incense had burned out. From her bag, she produced a small packet of the same brand and lit one stick, placing it carefully in the holder. "Safe travels," she murmured, not to any deity but to the absent owner of the home. On his flight back to Delhi, Vikram continued watching the recordings, mesmerized by this woman who moved through his space with such genuine care. In a world where everyone wanted something from him, her actions, performed with no expectation of recognition or reward, felt like a language he had forgotten existed. As the plane began its descent, he made a decision. Tomorrow he would finally meet the woman who had been silently caring for his home, and perhaps, unknowingly, reminding him of what truly mattered. Beyond appearances, the first rays of morning light streamed through the panoramic windows of Vikram Khanna's penthouse as he paced the living room, occasionally glancing at his watch. For the first time in years, he had cleared his morning schedule. No calls, no meetings, no urgent emails. Today, he wanted to be present when Prisha arrived. At precisely 9 a.m., the doorbell chimed. Vikram straightened his casual linen shirt and took a deep breath before opening the door. Prisha stood frozen, her hand still raised mid-knock. "Mr. Khanna," she stammered, immediately lowering her gaze. "I wasn't expecting... I can come back." "Later if... Please come in," Vikram said, stepping aside. And it's just Vikram. Confusion clouded her features as she cautiously entered, clutching her bag of supplies. The apartment that had become a sanctuary of solitude for her now felt foreign with its owner present. "Would you like some chai?" Vikram asked, gesturing toward the kitchen where a pot was already simmering with fragrant spices. "Sir, I should be offering you—" "Please," he interrupted gently. "I'd like to talk with you." As they sat at the breakfast counter with steaming cups between them, Vikram revealed what he had seen on the security footage. Prisha's cheeks flushed with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry for overstepping," she said quietly. "I never meant to intrude." Vikram shook his head. "That's not why I wanted to speak with you. I wanted to thank you, not just for cleaning my home, but for caring for it, for seeing things I've stopped noticing." Their conversation flowed more easily than either expected. Vikram learned that Prisha lived in a small apartment in Lajpat Nagar with her aging grandmother, Indira, and her younger sister, Divya, who was preparing for medical school entrance exams. He discovered that Prisha had once dreamed of becoming an architect but had set aside her ambitions when her parents died in a bus accident 5 years ago. "Your sister is fortunate to have you," Vikram said. Prisha smiled, a genuine, unguarded expression that transformed her face. "We take care of each other. That's what family does." In the weeks that followed, a new routine emerged. Vikram found himself scheduling work from home on the days Prisha came to clean. Their conversations became the highlight of his otherwise isolated life. He learned about her neighborhood, her friends, her grandmother's legendary biryani, and her sister's determination to become a doctor. On a particularly rainy afternoon, Prisha arrived drenched despite her umbrella. Vikram insisted she warm up before starting work and placed a steaming cup of ginger tea in her hands. "You never mention friends or dating," Prisha ventured, surprising herself with her boldness. "Someone as successful as you must have people lining up to be part of your life." Vikram's expression dimmed. "Success attracts plenty of people, but not necessarily for the right reasons." He paused. "My last relationship ended when I discovered she was feeding information about my company to a competitor. Since then, I've found it easier to keep people at a distance." "That's why you have so many security cameras," Prisha realized aloud. He nodded. "Ironic that they ended up capturing the most genuine person I've met in years." In her small apartment across the city, Prisha found herself thinking about Vikram's words as she helped her sister study. Their home was modest but meticulously kept, with walls adorned with family photos and Divya's academic certificates. "You're distracted," Divya noted, looking up from her textbooks. "Is everything okay at work?" Prisha nodded too quickly. "Everything's fine. Is it that tech billionaire? Grandmother said you mentioned him 3 times during dinner last week. He's just different than I expected," Prisha admitted. Divya's expression grew serious. "Be careful, Didi. Men like him live in a different world. They might play at being ordinary, but when it matters, they remember their position." Later that night, as Prisha helped her grandmother prepare for bed, the elderly woman took her hand. "You seem happier these days," Indira observed. "Your eyes shine like they did before we lost your parents." Prisha adjusted her grandmother's blanket. "I've been thinking about taking some night classes in design. Just a few, to see if I still have the aptitude. This sudden interest. Does it have anything to do with your employer?" "He believes I could do it," Prisha admitted. "Sometimes having someone believe in you makes impossible things seem possible again." Across the city, Vikram sat in his home office, a forgotten conference call muted on his laptop. Instead of listening to his business partners, he found himself sketching a design for a community center, something Prisha had mentioned was desperately needed in her neighborhood. For the first time in years, he was creating something not for profit or recognition, but simply because it mattered to someone who had unexpectedly begun to matter to him. Neither Prisha nor Vikram realized that their worlds, once separated by Delhi's stark social divisions, had already begun to merge into something new and undefined, something that would soon be tested by those who preferred the boundaries between their worlds remained firmly in place. A new horizon. 2 years later, a striking building stood at the intersection of Prisha's old neighborhood and the adjoining upscale district, a physical manifestation of the bridge between worlds that had once seemed impossible. The Indira Community Development Center, named after Prisha's grandmother, housed a technical training institute, a women's entrepreneurship hub, a health clinic, and a rooftop urban garden that supplied fresh produce to local families. Inside her modest office, Prisha reviewed architectural plans for their newest project, affordable, sustainable housing for service workers in Delhi's expensive districts. At 36, her desk was cluttered with the evidence of her journey, her architecture certification, project awards, and a small framed photo of her grandmother standing proudly at the center's inauguration 6 months before she passed away. A knock at the door interrupted her concentration. Divya entered, now in her final year of medical school, wearing a white coat from her hospital rotation. "The board members are all here," she announced, "including your silent partner." Prisha smiled. "He's hardly silent these days." In the conference room, Vikram sat among community leaders and financial backers, deliberately positioning himself not at the head of the table, but as one voice among many. When Prisha entered, his eyes found hers with the same warmth that had first bridged their separate worlds. "Thank you all for coming," Prisha began, displaying the housing project renderings. "As you know, our goal is to create dignified, sustainable homes for the people who keep our city running but can't afford to live in it. The construction costs seem ambitious," noted one investor, a former skeptic who had been won over by the center's success. "That's where our partnership with Quantum Solutions comes in," Prisha explained. "Their new building materials division has developed low-cost, environmentally friendly alternatives that maintain structural integrity while reducing expenses by 30%. As the meeting progressed, the easy synchronicity between Prisha and Vikram was evident to everyone present. They complemented each other's thoughts, anticipated questions together, and shared a vision that had transformed from personal connection into community impact. After the board dispersed, Vikram lingered, helping Prisha gather her presentation. "Materials. Have dinner with me tonight?" he asked. "Arjun is hosting a reception for our international investors at the Oberoi, and I'd like you there." Prisha hesitated. "You know how I feel about those events. The stares, the whispers." "No whispers anymore," Vikram assured her. "Not after your center won the National Urban Innovation Award. Even Arjun had to admit he was wrong about you, about us." Their relationship had evolved in unexpected ways. After their reconciliation, they had made a conscious decision to build something together before pursuing anything personal. The center became their shared project. Prisha's design and community knowledge combined with Vikram's resources and business acumen. Their partnership flourished in this neutral territory, neither his world nor hers, but something new they created together. "Besides," Vikram added with a smile, "I have ulterior motives. Several investors are interested in replicating our model in Mumbai and Bangalore. They want to meet the architect behind the design." Later that evening, as they entered the hotel together, Prisha no longer felt like an intruder in Vikram's world. She moved with the confidence of someone who had earned her place through merit rather than association. When Arjun approached with his wife, the greeting was genuinely warm. "The Prime Minister's office called again," Arjun informed them. "They want to feature the center in the National Housing Initiative. You've started something significant here, Prisha." "We've started something," she corrected, her hand finding Vikram's. As the night progressed, Prisha found herself on the balcony, taking a moment away from the crowd. Vikram joined her, 2 chai cups in hand, a private tradition they had maintained from their early days. Do you ever think about how differently things might have turned out? He asked. If I hadn't checked those security cameras that day, Prisha considered this. I believe kindness finds its way through, even when unseen. Perhaps not in the same way, but eventually. Speaking of finding ways, Vikram said, suddenly nervous, I've been thinking about our next project. The Mumbai expansion, a more personal one. From his pocket, he produced a small architectural drawing, a simple home designed in the style they both loved, neither ostentatious nor humble, but thoughtfully created for shared living. I was hoping you might help me design our future. Prisha took the drawing, recognizing it as a proposal of the most meaningful kind. Are you sure? Your world, my world, they're still so different. They were never as separate as we thought, Vikram replied. Just built on different foundations. Now we know how to bridge them. As the Delhi night unfolded around them, Prisha's answer came not in words, but in the plans she began sketching on the back of his drawing, additions and modifications. To his design, her vision intertwining with his. It was how they had always communicated best, through creation, through building something neither could have imagined alone. In the years that followed, their story became part of Delhi's changing narrative, not a fairy tale of rescue or a cautionary tale of boundaries crossed, but a testament to what becomes possible when people truly see each other beyond the divisions of wealth and circumstance. The buildings they created throughout India stood as monuments not just to architectural innovation, but to the power of unseen kindness to transform lives, communities, and eventually, an entire society's understanding of what it means to build a home together.